Right, hello and welcome to. Oh God, that's a plug there. No, still. Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is it's a short introduction to organisation structures. Now, it's part one. This we'll upload part two a little bit later on. Now, the main thing we need to learn about today is the hierarchy and the two types of structures that we could use. Just two given types I'll go through today, which is tall structure and a flat structure. Now they may not mean anything at the moment, but I'm going to go through them and we can work together and see which one we would prefer. So we're going to start off with so some of the basics really. So what is an organisation in a business? That's the first question we need to get out of the way. So an organisation structure or is some way that I'll give it a proper textbook definition and then I'll try and explain it in English, as obviously this is French. So it says here, an organisation chart illustrates a relationship between the positions within an organisation. Now that is very fancy jargon for what basically is. It shows what roles and responsibilities people have within a business. So at the top I'm going to draw a standard organisational structure for a business. I'm not going to label every department a business might have. That's because of a couple of things that what it might tell us. I'm just going to do a basic one. So generally at the top you have a chief exec, partly because I can't be bothered writing the rest, and partly because my pen will probably die of exhaustion and boredom of listening to me. So you've got your chief executive at your top, hopefully you can see that, and we've got a couple of different departments. And now I'll draw these first actually. So at the top of these departments I'm just going to draw three. You'll have the directors at the top. So director. Now I'm just going to call these one for P for production, one for HR for human resources, and one for M for marketing. Now this chief executive is responsible for the ones that are directly below it. So he's responsible for the director of P, director of the HR, director of the M. Now it may look at the moment like he's only got 3 people to manage. It surely can't be a hard job. Well, the reason why the high at the top is generally because the jobs at the top involve need more control, as it were. So a director, that's the whole of a department. Now the manager would need to know a lot of things about what the director is doing to get through messages to certain departments, for example, and how it's controlling financial spending, for example. So yeah, we've got generally the directors for each one. As I said, it's very small at the top and it starts to branch out a little bit. The next one is the managers. Sure. Now, so these are managers of the respective departments, not all of one. Manager. Yeah, and then you've got, sometimes you have assistant, so I just put AS for assistant manager. AS, because again I can't be bothered, but you'll know and do this in the exam. AS. 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 There you go. So, as you can see, we're starting to branch out a bit here, and then we get even more as we go. So I'll just put E for employee, and you might have 3. You're probably going to have more than 3 employees per assistant manager, for example. E, 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 E. No, it's not E, the phone company. That'd be too much banter. What we need is E for employee. So we've got E, E, E. Guess what we're going to have for these? That's right, we're going to have E, 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 and E. Now, as you can see, we're getting slower down. We're getting more, we're expanding them slowly as we go down. Now, the first thing we need to go over is, well, what does this tell us about this business? How many people are involved in this business? You've got your chief exec, that's 1. You've got your director, that's 2. Your director over the HR, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. You're about 32 people in this organisation. Now, one thing for sure can tell you how big an organisation is. So, as you can tell, if we're given this business, there's only got 37 people in the whole business. Generally means the business is quite small. Obviously, with this stage of the course, it's likely to be a lot broader, not bigger than 37 people, because that could indicate a startup. It also tells you what kind of business it is. We've got a production section over here. Now, production is mainly to do with manufacturing, so it tells you straight away, without even knowing anything about this business, that if you look at the organisation chart, you know that it's some kind of manufacturing business, for example. And obviously, the human resources is welfare, the workers, making sure they're doing the job correctly, and the hours are, generally looking after the welfare of the workers. Oh god, you think it'd be the easiest bit having a rubber? It just doesn't seem to want to be used. It was so much fun. Okay, so I'll rub that. Hopefully you've got that on. Now I'll get rid of that. Now, is there anything else I've missed out before we go on to 2 structures? Said that, yeah. Spanner control. Yeah, it's sort of going on for what I said before, so I don't know why I look back there. The spanner controller is basically how many people is directly beneath, so if you've got a manager, you've got 2 assistant managers underneath, then that person is responsible for 2 assistant managers. For example. Yeah, that's just going to the last bit that I was going to do. Now, there is more to the organisation structure than this, but I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what we've done. So, you may be asking me, well, what is a flat structure? What is a tall structure? It's not just one guy that picked out the street and thought, oh, he's tall, let's get him in structure mode. Well, unfortunately, it's not quite as simple as that. I think a diagrammatic way of representing this, yes, I sound very smart indeed, but may not be that smart in real life, you never know. So you've got, say this tall structure, as you probably guess, it's quite tall. Not just like, oh well, it's 6'7", but I'm talking about the way it looks. So, I'm just going to draw this very high-tech diagram. Slowly gets bigger as you go down. So that each box on there represents either a manager, the chief exec, manager, a director, etc. Whatever you may have in your business. And that is a flat. Assume that's a flat structure on the left, and we're going to draw a tall structure on the right. Obviously, I could be a little better at art, but never mind, didn't take it, so much as I would have loved to. Okay, so we've got 2 types of structures. Apart from my bad drawing, what you should notice is there appears to be a lot more levels in the tall structure than the small structure, or the flat structure, as it's called in the business world. Now, these bring advantages, disadvantages generally within a business. So what I'm going to do is put a line down, crazy line in red. Now I'm going to get out my blue and black pen. No, it's too crazy this. all these colours. I'm surprised I've not broken my camera yet. So, while we're going with black, we're going with the black pen. Okay, so they're the two structures. So, yeah, I'll put this as flat, because my drawing's that bad, and tall. So, what are the advantages and disadvantages? Well, I'm going to put the advantages in black. So, an advantage of a flat structure, a little bit of a downside. What a flat structure means there is not many layers in the business. So that could indicate that obviously the business is might be a bit smaller than the tall, but an advantage of a flat structured business is that the costs are quite low. So I just put wage costs, as obviously you've got less people high up, so the cost you less, and that's obviously a bonus. Wage costs reduce. And another advantage, with it being fewer levels in the business, the customer, say if a customer went to a complaint and it had to go all the way up to the chief exec at the top, they could make a decision very quickly and it wouldn't take that long. So, how do you phrase that in a way? So, communication is good, or quick, whichever one you want to do. So, wage cost reduce, communication is good. Is there anything else we could add to that? Oh yeah, there's one thing as well. So we've got something called delegation. Now, delegation is where you give a worker, say I'm in this position in the business here, and I delegate some responsibilities in this role to control this role. Then we are motivating them employees. We are essentially moving them up to our position. Yeah, actually no. To control the same area, and we're moving them up to our position. So it spreads the workload out for supervising the employees, and it allows a business to motivate its employees. So delegating control. Is there any more? Cost, communication. Yeah, they're the main ones. There is another one, but I don't personally think it's that important. So you've got the advantages of a tall business. Obviously, as we said here, we haven't put it down, but one of the disadvantages of this is that the share of control is quite wide. So this person here is responsible for the whole of that next section, whereas this is just a tiny bit involved in a little tiny bit, and a bigger bit is controlling a slightly bigger bit, so the ratios on this are going to be much more extreme than that. So that tells us for every worker in the above department or above layer in the business, as we think of it like that, has less people to concentrate on when they go on to the next given layer. So that's a bonus as well. So we can put that down in the phrase, in the context that how do we word that actually? So, yeah, I would just put can control employees. Oh wait, no, that's, sorry. Oh wait, actually, yeah. Cost, control employees, control employees effectively. Now what does that tell us? Well, it means that we can keep them in line with the objectives of the business, for example. So another advantage of a tall structure is there's a lot more chance for promotion, whereas this is only, in this structure you've only got 4, well they can, if they're on this structure they can only go up 1, 2, 3, or if they're joining the business at this, go from the bottom, then they can join, get up 1, get up another, get up another. So you can see there's a lot more layers in the business, there's a lot more jobs and improvements that they could make, and obviously that employ tactics that may enable a business to motivate its employees, like this does by delegating responsibility. So, room for promotion. So there's room for a promotion. And what else is good about this the tall structure? Well, so control promotion. I don't think this one is so important, but never mind. So with the less needs to delegate is the work is for the next step is less than obviously this one. The managers don't need to delegate the work, so the manager probably more qualified than anyone from the lower level controlling other people in that level. So, and it allows them to get more hands-on sort of thing, and you know, keep them, which is sort of like controlling them more effectively. It's why I wasn't too fussed about putting this one down, because you can interchange them quite easily. So controlling hands of management. So, and as I say, it may look exactly the same. That's probably because it's quite similar. Controlling management. Now, you may be starting to think, well, if one's tall and the other one's small, what we'd like is a mix of both, and that would be totally correct. But what we want to look at in this one is how we can apply these advantages to these disadvantages, and similarly these advantages to the disadvantages of the tall. So a disadvantage of a flat structure is that you can't control employees more effectively. So unable, because you've got a wider range of employees for this section, the section's differences in these are a lot smaller than the differences in these. So you've got more work to do, for example. So can't control, unable to control employees. And we've sort of said it before, with there being less steps in the business, or layers, there is less chance of promotion. And then with this one, you've got the advantage from here to the disadvantage from here. So you've got high costs because you're employing more people at the top level. So higher wage costs, higher wages. Communication is good, so but however this is a lot higher, so it take a lot more time for the message to get from here to down here, so it take less to respond to consumers. So for example, if a consumer complained, it'd be a lot harder to get to it through this method. So less responsive to customers, I think we'll put down. Yeah, less responsive to customers. So there are your main disadvantages and advantages, and also you can't delegate control. Well, you can, but it isn't really needed to, as the managers like to get a hand-on approach, so to speak. So delegating control is a bad thing here, because you can't do it. Well, you can, but you know, it's not a effective way as a manager can still watch other people. Another thing I'm not going to write on there is I don't think it's that important, because I don't think personally you could say much about it. With the smaller difference between the two layers in the tall structure, then workers have a lot more time of the people above them looking down on them, and this could make workers feel undermined, as you would like to think. They never trusted within the workplace, and this could lead to low motivation, low quality, low sales, and you could expand on that if you wanted to, but I don't think you're going to get many when it's going to ask you. You're going to need to talk about that as a particular disadvantage. So let's go over what we've got so far. We've got the flat structure, and an advantage of your flat structure is that there is you can delegate control, so you can motivate employees. It's very cost effective, so you don't have to have so you have less workers in your workforce, so it's cheaper in terms of the wage bill. You're able to respond to customers more quickly because the word of mouth needs to get through less, and it's going to be less distorted as well, as you've only got a few structure layers in your business. So, you know, obviously it's a bit like Chinese whispers if you think of it like that. However, a disadvantage is that the managers have a lot more to do. I mean, they can delegate control, but they have a lot more work to do with certain areas in the business. They're expected to cover a lot more. So they may have the same amount of workers, but it's just the flatter, so there's more people in each section. And disadvantage, and another disadvantage of a flat structure, is that there are less chance for promotion, as there is less levels in the business. Tall is obviously the advantage, disadvantages are reversed, flipped over if you'd like. So there's more control, as the sections between them are less, so the jumps between the layers in the business are less, so you can control them more. There's a greater chance for promotion, more layers in the business. And another advantage is that, I sort of control management, sort of same thing, I won't go into that too much. Your disadvantages are obviously higher wages if you've got more people at the top of the business. It takes longer for it to get through, and word of mouth could, so longer to get through is less responsive to customers, and word of mouth could be distorted as it goes down through the business. It might actually not end up to what the manager at the top wants is to what happens in the shop, people on the shop floor. Now, hopefully that's given you a bit of an introduction to this topic, and well, we'll see you in the next video. Keep going, guys.